Hello, everyone. I'm Sharmeen Mehri, the interviewer for today's oral history recording, logging in from Buffalo, New York. Today is November 4th, 2024. This interview will be part of the FIRE's Oral History Project. I will be interviewing Roshan and Rohinton Rivetna about their life histories as first generation Zoroastrians in the United States. Roshan and Rohinton are in Chicago, Illinois. Thank you both for being part of this project. First, I'd like you both to begin with spelling your full name out, telling us where you currently live and your age.
Yes, I'm Rohinton Rivetna, Rohinton. The last name is Rivetna, R-I-V as in Victor, E-T-N-A. I'll be 90 this December, and we live in Hinsdale, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago.
And Roshan, go ahead.
I'm Roshan Rivetna, Roshan Rivetna, and I was born in 39, so I am 84 or 85.
86.
86 maybe. And I live at 626 West, I'm sorry, address we need, right? The address is 5750 South Jackson Street, Hinsdale, Illinois.
What was your neighborhood like, where you were born, things like that. So feel free to begin, whoever would like to speak first about their childhood.
Okay, so I was born in Bombay, Mumbai now, and I was born in a hospital which was the Masina Hospital. Dr. Masina was the doctor who gave me birth in that hospital, and that hospital was the palace of David Sassoon. He was an entrepreneur, a business person, Jewish gentleman who had come from Arabia, they say. And he had settled in Mumbai and had done lots of philanthropic projects in Mumbai. So he had donated his palace to Dr. Masina, who ran that hospital. So I was born there and grew up in Parsi colony, Dadar, which, looking back, was a real Shangri-La sort of a beautiful place to grow up. We lived right next to the Agyari, so I would hear the bells ringing every so often, and the priests reciting prayers. And my sister and I were with our grandparents because our mom and dad were traveling. My dad was on the railroads. He worked for the railroads, and he would be shifted from town to town. So, in order for us to get a good education, we were with our grandparents. So we grew up with our grandparents, my sister and I. So we have that. My grandparents, of course, were born in the 1800s. So we were brought up in that fashion, 1800 fashion, which was a strict discipline. And of course, we had lots of fun and we learned a lot. And our grandparents were quite religious, my grandfather in particular. So we picked up quite a bit of his kind of work habits and his daily routine and so on and so forth. And we had a lovely, lovely time. We were in a what do they call it? The family, the whole family lived together, aunts, uncles. So we were about 14 of us in that house. And we grew up there with loving care of our aunts, uncles, and went to the Wadia Vacha High School, which is a girls' school. But boys were admitted up to about, I think it was the first standard English and the fourth standard Gujarati. So had a lovely time there. The teachers were all very loving and caring uh, Parsi ladies who gave us their full attention, and we had a lovely time at the school. And then after that, as you grew up and went into the first standard English, we were moved over to another school. We went to Don Bosco High School, and that's where I graduated from high school. So, and growing up, I was kind of a little loner. I would have some friends here and there, but I kept to myself quite a bit. And in the evenings, I would go around and collect fruits, climb trees, and things of that sort. And a very active Cub Scout. I joined the Cub Scouts, and I was very, very active. I became a scout leader later on, and lots of fun hiking. We would hike all over the Western Ghats and got lost several times, but had lots of fun. And I've always assumed leadership roles and took my scouts around, and I was very frugal too. I would,
You went on your North India trip.
yeah, we went on a North India trip. I was known for frugal camps and so on. So it was A10, as they remember, people remember. Yeah.
May I ask
So,
you to tell me the names of some of your family members? I know you mentioned your grandparents, your sister, your aunt, uncles, if you want to share some of their names.
yes, my grandmother was Dhanmai Rivetna. She was a Dhanmai Motiwala, her unmarried name, and she was from a Motiwala family. My uh, grandfather was, of course, Jamshedji Rivetna, and my uncles were Dara, Uncle Dara, Kaka, Keki Kaka, Farooq Kaka, Noshir Kaka. And my aunts were Dina, Mani, and Perrin. And so all of us lived together in that one apartment. And we accommodated each other, and I was taken care of by my grandmother. But I had some habits. I was fond of breakfast and things of that sort. So she would favor me a lot. But we had a great time. Great time.
Tell me about your
Yeah.
adventures in Dada.
Yeah. So there was one time the community, Parsi colony, was infested with monkeys. All of a sudden, there were hundreds of monkeys, and they would molest people and not kind of frighten. Yeah. So
He was bitten on the butt by a monkey.
yeah. So one afternoon, coming home for lunch from school, there was a monkey sitting on the agyari wall, And I kind of got a little scared, so I ran, and he ran after me and bit me on my butt. And that was a horrible thing. You had to have 14 injections in the stomach, and very painful, but survived that. And then there was
How
this
old you
explosion.
were?
I must have been about 8 or 9 that time. And then there was the explosion in the Bombay harbor in 1944. And
That was a fun story.
yeah, so I remember being sent every couple of days, I would be sent to the mill to have the wheat flour ground. And I was going down the stairs, and there was a big bang, and everything shook, and the sack fell out of my hand. So I quickly picked up everything, scooped everything back in the sack, and went to the mill to get it ground. I got it ground, got the flour, got it home, and then at night when they were making the rotis, it was crunchy a little bit. So I kind of had to admit that it had fallen out of my hand. I picked it up and
From the street.
yeah, no, from the stairs.
From
I
the
was on the stairs. And at the mill, there were all kinds of rumors. There were no telephones and things that we have today. So there were rumors that the aeroplane fell into a tank and blew. Was a big explosion, things of that sort. But actually, it was the ammunition ship that had caught fire, and that had blown up in the harbor. And it destroyed a lot of downtown in
Was that the
Mumbai. Yeah,
gold bars?
yeah, the gold bars. There's a story that it was carrying gold bars, and the gold bars got flown into several people's homes, and some returned them, I'm sure, others may not have. But there are
Sure, they
stories.
said that all the
Yeah,
Parsis returned the
yeah,
gold bars. I'm sure they claim that.
yeah. And there are whole books written on this explosion. So, but we uh, went through all that, and the whole downtown was in rubbles. Then at that time, the wartime, the Italian soldiers, they were prisoners of war, and they were assigned the task to clear the rubble. And in back of our school, there were a lot of spots to fill. So they would come and bring the fill and dump it there, and we would make friends with those Italian prisoners and exchange things with them. They would give us some chewing gum, and we would give them something, and we made friends with them. So those are memories.
Wow, these are amazing memories. Anything else you'd like to share about your childhood, the Parsi colony while you were growing up? Any other particular memory?
Yeah, the well, I was very active with the scouts, so the scoutmasters
Yeah,
they were our role models. And,
you were an Eagle Scout, right?
Oh, and that's
Very
very
we learned a lot from them. We learned a lot, and they were our mentors.
And now you, Roshan, please could you describe your childhood, where you were born, your neighborhood, your family members?
Mine was not as interesting as his growing up in the other Parsi colony. I was born in my family. I was the only child among three, my father and two uncles. And we all lived together. My grandmother, grandfather, two uncles, their wives, and my father and mother. And I was the only child. I was very spoiled. Grew up not in a very frugal. Rohinton was very frugal. And there was a story about Rohinton's, which you don't mention, about his house. When I went to visit his house, there, Minochar uncle, his dad, at 6 o'clock in the evening, he would turn off the refrigerator. He would save electricity. So at 6 o'clock in the evening, he would turn off the electric clock. He would turn off the refrigerator. The bathroom had a 0-watt light bulb. Couldn't see anything at night. And then all night he would save the electricity. And then in the morning, when the Dudwala came at 6 o'clock in the morning, he would turn on the clock again. And turn on the refrigerator later on. So anyway, my house, I lived in a very spoiled house. I was the only child among 3 brothers and whole family. And we lived at Mama Chambers in Gwalior Tank Road. And my grandmother, Navajbai Pandey, she lived at Pandey Bungalow in Tardeo. Across from the Pandey Mills, there was a Pandey Mills there. And my grandfather from my mother's side used to be the head of that Pandey Mills. So they had this whole huge big bungalow, which is now torn down, and it is a bus station at Tardeo Circle. So we used to live, and so that was between Mama Chambers and Pandey House. We would, go back and forth between my grandmother's houses. And really, I had some friends, and we'd go out in the evening, meet friends, and my ayah, I had an ayah, and she would take notes from me to my friend's house a block down the street, my best friend, Katie Katrak, and my ayah would take notes to her, and then we'd say we'll meet at 6 o'clock today at Hanging Gardens or something, and then there was Scandal Point on Breach Candy, Scandal Point. That's where we went most of the time. A few of our friends, my upstairs, I was Upperni Roshan, and then on the first floor, there was another Roshan, Nicheni Roshan. So we used to go out together to Scandal Point most of the evenings. So had a very, regular life. We didn't have any adventures like Rohinton has had. And every morning, my ayah would take me to Queen Mary's High School. And I was in Queen Mary's High School off of Nana Chowk all my Queen Mary days. Then after Queen Mary's, I went to Elphinstone College. I was very interested in science. I wanted to do whatever was on the forefront of science. So I went to Elphinstone College, did my Bachelor of Science there. And then I went to Royal Institute of Science, which is in the same building where Kawasji Jangir Hall is, in that building. So I took physics there. And I was the only girl in my whole physics class. But I never had I didn't think about it. Nobody said anything. You're a girl, and why are you doing physics and all? And then, do you want me to go beyond my education, or let's do the education later?
Yeah, and actually, before we go there, could you tell me your parents' names?
My mother was Jalu and father Khurshed Patel. But we were Patel with a double L. My father always said that we are Patels with the double L.
Is there a story behind that, or was it just?
Well, apparently, my father's father or somebody had originally were among the first Parsis that had come to India, to Bombay, to Mumbai. And I don't know the whole story. Kawasji Patel was one of the early Patel family. Kamalji Patel was my
Certainly.
father's uncle. Yeah, early settlers, Parsi settlers. And I really don't know the full story, but they were among the very earliest. They used to talk about some, and I should have looked it up, but I don't remember, some Gandhara. Who were the people who lived in Mumbai at the time?
No,
And
but
these
that's very
they were very
We have a
ancient.
book on it.
I have a book on it called The Patels of Mumbai.
okay, great.
And so that's, way back somewhere in my previous history. So Jalu and Kharshid Patel, their parents were Piroja and Ardeshar Patel. And my uncles were Behram Patel and his wife Hilla. And my other uncle was Dhunji Shah Patel and his wife Mithu.
Okay, thank you.
I miss giving my parents' name.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. My father was Minoche Jamshedji Rivetna, and my mother, Temina Modi, was her maiden name. And then Rivetna, Temina Rivetna. I had a brother, Jamshed, who passed early in life. Then Dara, who passed away recently. And then Parviz is my elder sister. She's elder than me. And she lives in Indianapolis right now. And then myself. So we were six in the family. In college, I went to St. Xavier's High School, St. Xavier's College. For 2 years, did the inter-science, and then went to the engineering college in Baroda, and graduated as a mechanical engineer from Baroda Engineering College. It was called Maharaja Rao Sayaji Rao, Maharaja Sayaji Rao University
Okay, great.
in Baroda.
And now, both of you, did you know each other all your whole life? When did you meet for the first time?
She has a good story.
Okay, so let's see where. Okay, so how far did I get? I said, yeah, so I was, okay, in my education, I went to, I came to Pittsburgh to study, and I did my master's here in nuclear physics. And then I went back to Mumbai. And I was working at the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. And so Rohinton you went?
I went from Baroda. When I graduated from the engineering college in Baroda, I went to London and did some master of science work there, MS, and then I took up a job there in London, and then came back to Kolkata and worked at the same company that I was employed in England for 7 years before.
Tell them about your London trips. Yeah,
Yeah,
we had some very exciting adventures in London before we met. This was.
Yeah. So I'd arrived in London a couple months prior to the school starting, and I took up a job and earned a little money, and decided to uh, go to Europe on a bicycle. In those days, people did that quite frequently, so I bought a bike from a family friend who was there, and rode the bike all through Europe, from Belgium, France, Germany, and Holland, back to England. So spent about a month in Europe on a bicycle. And those days, people did that quite frequently. There were a lot of hitchhikers, college going, school going hitchhikers. You see them, you made friends with them, and you stayed at youth hostels. There were youth hostels which were almost free, and they gave you a nice evening meal and a bunk to sleep on, and very comfortable, nice. And you made friends with other people that were there from all parts of the world. They would be there. So I did that for a month, and then came back to England, did my college work, took up a job. And when I took up a job, they had a branch in India. So they offered me work, employment on condition that after they trained me, I would go back to India. So when time came to go back to India, I decided to return uh, on a motorcycle, and had quite a bit of adventure on a motorcycle. Went through several countries, and all kinds of regulations you had to go through. Took me about 18 days to get to Turkey, and
Yeah, I have the
Mhm.
yeah.
At the border, at the border.
Yeah, he got it. He was stopped at the border,
Okay.
and
Yeah, there was a attendant with a hurricane lantern, and he handed me a telegram,
he got
which was in Turkish and
yeah.
English.
And I don't know if
Oh,
you can see
wow.
this,
Yes, I can. This is amazing.
but it's
It's
written in
great.
English, but you can hardly see it. It
Yeah.
was can't decipher it too well, but it was from the Indian embassy,
Okay.
Hindustan something, Hindustan Indian embassy, and they asked him to
Yeah,
contact some telephone number and
Okay.
talk to somebody. And it
yeah,
was in English, but hardly visible,
yeah.
hardly
Anyway, I
readable.
drove the bike all night and got to the embassy, and they said that I was needed home. Airline ticket, and I had to get rid of the bike somehow, which was a tough job, but gave it away to the Red Cross.
Okay.
Coming home, of course, my
Yeah, his brother had met with a train accident. How old was he?
18 or 19.
18 years
I
old.
see. Okay.
Yeah. So the accident was nowhere, Churchgate or something. Yeah.
And then
So he
you
was,
went back to India after, and
Yeah,
Roshan,
and then
sorry, go
took up
ahead.
the employment. I went to Calcutta and I worked there for 7 years. And then Roshan can pick up
okay,
the
so
story.
I'll tell you the story of how we met. So I was working in Bombay at the TIFR, and my mother and his sister were teachers in a school in Bombay, school for children in need of special care. And Parvez, his sister, told Rohinton that my brother is coming. He's in Calcutta. He's coming to Bombay for a while. Can we introduce him to your daughter? So, of course, my mother was very anxious because I was almost late 20s and I wasn't married. So, of course, she arranged this get together. So, all his family, his mother, father, sister, and Rohinton came to visit my family for tea. And we were all at Pandey Bungalow and we had a big tea. And Rohinton, came in and I just fell in love with him. Just looked at him and I said, oh, he's really nice, handsome guy. So I was quite happy with him. And that was first week of December, like December 3rd or something. And then we had a nice tea. What was your impression of me?
Well, good, good.
I was very impressed with him. So anyway, they left, and then next day he sent me a big bunch of roses And you asked me to come out with him, and we went out for a walk to Cuff Parade, and we kind of liked each other. So it was quite quick.
Okay.
And then next few days we met, and we really liked each other. And then he had been applying for a visa to come to USA for many months or something. And the visa came through. So he says, I have to go now and we'll keep in touch, but I have to go to USA. So I said, no, I don't trust you. We'll get married and go. So I kind of insisted, and we got married, and we set our wedding for January 15th. That was hardly 1 month after we met. So January 15th at Kolaba Agyari, we were having a big wedding. Not too big, because in those days there was rationing, so we could not have very big weddings. But we had about 50 people, I think. But 3 days before, on the 12th or so, Lal Bahadur Shastri, the Prime Minister of India, passed away. So then we had to cancel the reception, but we had a small wedding at Kolaba Agyari on the 15th of January. And then we decided that we'd have a reception at Tata Institute, where I used to work. It was right on the ocean at Kolaba, beautiful location. So we planned to have the reception about a week later. And we arranged for the reception, had all the guests and everything. And a day or 2 days before the reception, we got the news that Homi Bhabha had died in a plane crash. In a plane crash in Switzerland. So, of course, that was all canceled, completely canceled. And instead of the reception, we attended the Uttamna ceremony at the TIFR on that same day. And then we had planned, I wanted to show you this.
He was your relative.
Homi Bhabha was my second cousin. So he was really my mentor. And I wanted to show you this telegram, in between Calcutta, when Rohinton was in Calcutta for a few days after we met, we had to communicate by telegram. Okay, so here's the one telegram he sent me.
Okay.
And this one, it reads, all clear, flying, arriving Bombay Monday, 10 p.m. We will get married in the morning. Ding dong, tentatively fixing departure for USA to 23rd January. How about 15th for D-Day? Love, Rohinton.
Oh, I love this. Thank you for reading that.
And then I sent him a telegram back. This is my telegram to him.
Okay.
And we had to keep it short because it was expensive. Word by word, we had to pay. And I said, ecstatically happy, darling. My prayers go with you forever. 15th, fine. Can't wait till Monday. Love to you. So that was our. So then we got married. And then.
And what year is this? I just want to.
This was 1966. January 15th, we got married. And then on the 23rd, he had booked the flight for us to come to Chicago. But anyway, we'll talk about that later,
And
right?
so, I am curious then, this move to the United States, why was that something that was pursued, especially Rohinton, after you being in London? And then also I'm interested, Roshan, you'd been in Pittsburgh, but then, coming back to Chicago, how was that all for you both?
How was it in the sense how we adjusted?
Yeah, like your first days in America, why did you decide to go to Chicago, all of that?
Yeah, that was, she has a story again.
No, he wanted to come to US.
Well, I just wanted to come. I was doing quite well in the company I was working with, and they were quite disappointed that I was leaving. But I'd told myself that been to London, seen how things were. I just wanted to figure out how things were in US and learn a little bit about the customs and this and that. So that was my ambition, and that's the reason why we came. Why I had the visa. My brother was already here in the US at that time, and he had facilitated getting my visa. So when the visa came, what Roshan described happened, and we came together, and we were met by my brother, so we were kind of secure in that sense. And uh, first days, yeah,
I want to tell them about Dara and Mr.
yeah.
Stewart
So
also.
she,
So when he's saying brother Dara, he had befriended a gentleman. Dara was a student here, his brother. And he was, in the summer, he had befriended this Mr. Stewart by helping him in the summer to fix his boat. He was a very rich man, and Dara was just a student helping him. And they made a friendship, and this Mr. Stewart turned out to be really a noble person who gave Dara a job full time at his company, which was the American National Can Corporation, a very big company. And Dara worked there till he passed away, 40 years later. And then Mr. Stewart was the one that gave a trainee visa for Rohinton to come without, any question. And that's where Rohinton had received this job opportunity to start at National Can. So we both came, and when we came, we were only allowed 100 rupees out of the country each. So, which was at that time, I think it was $8
yeah,
or something, $8 each. So we had $8 each, and we had one suitcase we were allowed. So that's all we could bring here. And but we were met at the airport. I had a very pretty sari and a Kashmiri coat. Oh, but let me show you. This is a picture I wanted to show you of Dara and his whole family when Dara first came to the USA. So from left to right, it's Dara, his mother, Temina, Minoche, and Rohinton. They were on this ship, Strathnaver, when Dara first came to the USA. And so Dara came to the airport to pick us up, and he came in this very fancy car, and I said, "Oh, we don't have to worry. He's really, well placed here." But anyway, his Chevy did not start that day because it was one of the coldest days that Chicago had known for record cold. It was minus 24 degrees Fahrenheit. And I had a very pretty Kashmiri coat on and chappals, very pretty chappals. So anyway, his car didn't start, but this Mr. Stewart had loaned him his big car. So Cadillac car. So we were driven, and Dara took us first to Mr. Stewart's house. And Mr. Stewart and his wife, for the first night, they gave us a coat and a cap and gloves and everything, and made us, all comfortable. And then I think we slept one night at his house. And then on the next morning, Dara took us to look for an apartment. He had found an apartment for us. So we went up to that apartment very close by in downtown Chicago. And we moved in there. And then the next, we had nothing in the house, So I went down, I bought a little cookbook for 25 cents and because I had no idea how to cook. We always had mysteries and dramas in the house. I had no idea how to cook. And in fact, my brother Dara said, "Oh, dal chawal is very easy. You make for dal, you buy a can of split pea soup, and then you put uh, a box of chemo in it, and then to the buke goes out." So anyway, we went up to the apartment, and then very next day in the morning, Rohinton took 50 cents or something, and he took a train and a bus and went to work. And I was in the house alone, and I took his ganji and I cleaned up the whole house, cleaned it up, and I went down and got this Dell cookbook. And then there was a knock on the door, and this lady, very well-dressed lady, she came and she put her foot in the door and said, "Oh, what pretty sandals you have, this and that." And I thought, how did she know that I've just come and she's a neighbor, nice neighbor coming to say hi to me? So I asked her in, and she sat down on the sofa there, and I made her a cup of tea. And then from her briefcase, she took out some pad of paper and talked me into buying 3 years of Good Housekeeping magazine subscription for $8. And I was stupid enough to give her $8. And there was nothing left for me, and I just was completely scared. What am I going to tell Rohinton when he comes home? So anyway, that was my first day in Chicago. And then what else do you want to say? You want to talk about when you went to work?
Yeah, I went to work and they gave me a little advance, $100. So we were okay. And then we got our first salary, and we were just made ends meet. And from then on, we just grew. And
Yeah, let me tell her about this. I've saved this. So when we moved into our apartment, after a week, we moved into a regular house near his work. And all these people from his work were so kind, Mr. Stewart. And then okay, so this is a list of items that these nice ladies gave me, and I'll read it to you. So Mrs. Stewart gave me I made a list of everything. A red car coat, black wool gloves, 5 saucepans with lids, 2 aluminum kettles. Then another gentleman from his office, Mrs. Seward, she gave me a cutlery set, a radio, and a heavy coat. And then another lady, Mrs. Fredenberg, gave us a set of china for 4 water goblets, 4 wine glasses, 1 Pyrex dish, 4 glass plates, and a frying pan, aluminum tray, wooden salad bowl. And so I had that list with me. Happened to find it. So anyway, we settled down in the apartment, and it was very, very, very heavy snowfall in those days. So here's a picture. The first week we were there.
so we bought a car too after
Yeah, we
6 months,
bought a car after a few days,
few months.
And this is my first little Volkswagen car. And the license plate is RR2515.
That's amazing.
25 was for our engagement day, and 15 was for our wedding date. And Rohinton and it was very snowy, but he walked
record snow, 20
record
inches of snow.
every that winter. And they, he would go to work, he would walk through the snow and went to work.
We've always been in Chicago. We haven't moved anywhere.
Yeah,
And in fact, after a couple of years, we bought a house and stayed in that house for 25 years and moved to another house close by, within 3 or 4 blocks from there. And that's where we have been for the last 25 years now. And this community is very welcoming, very close-knit community where we live. I'm on the board of the trustees over there at on the community organizing committee. And we do things. Roshan started a gourmet club here years ago, and very active. We have people come to our house several times a year.
So no, this Hinsdale house, when we first moved to Hinsdale, I wanted to show you this picture of, there was a little article in the local paper in the Hinsdale Doings about, and Zenobia was just born then. So it's Rohinton, me, and Zenobia, and they were all excited about us.
There were very, very few Indians in US that time. If you saw a person in a sari, it was a novelty. And this was kind of an experience for the community for us to move in here. And they were very welcoming.
Yeah. We never had anything about, why are you here? But I would like to tell you about my first job and things here.
Yeah.
So when I came, I was on a visitor's visa, which we had after the wedding, we just scrambled around and we got this visa. And so I was not allowed to work, but we came here, and after a few days, I just looked up the newspaper job ads, and I called on a cold call. I called many things, and this job opening at Cook County Hospital was available. They wanted somebody in the radiology department. And I had this physics degree, so somehow they thought I would be okay there. So, and they called me for an interview and they gave me the job right away. But I was not supposed to work officially, so I did not take any salary for 3 months. I said, I'll just work. And I started working there. And this was in 1966. So computers, the CDC 3600 computer filled up the whole room. And there was a big card reader machine, huge, big. And the Fortran program was on a paper tape. So first we had to load the paper tape into the computer, and
the cards.
And then the cards. Yeah.
The horrible cards.
The cards, the computer cards. We had to feed the boxes of cards. And so anyway, I worked there. However, I didn't realize that we had to look at, for some reason, I got TB, tuberculosis. And they took an X-ray and they said, it's really serious. So I had to be hospitalized in the municipal tuberculosis sanitarium. So I was there and Rohinton was working and he was on his own. But I had to stay in the municipal tuberculosis sanitarium for about 6 months. 6 months. And during that time, the office was so nice to me, my company. They gave me my salary. They would come and give me jobs to do. And I would do a little bit but they gave me my full salary right through the 6 months. I've never felt any discrimination or anything. And while I was there, then this was a really hard time for us. And at that time, while I was in the sanitarium, my 6-month visitor visa was up. So Rohinton and I got a deportation notice. Within the next month, you have to leave. There was a letter that your deportation notice that your visa is up. And then after that, then my daughter Zenobia, I was pregnant in my 9th month or something. So Zenobia was born in the TB hospital, and she was taken away. The day she was born, they took her and brought her to the Hinsdale Hospital. But that was a hardship for me. So Rohinton then, he talked with a lawyer about the deportation, and the lawyer was going to charge him $1,000 to help us. And then how did you?
Well, I went to the office and went to the library and looked up the books about immigration and found a clause, which there was a hardship clause in the form to fill out. So I figured that that's what the lawyer was going to do. So I went back to him, asked him if he was going to do this. He said, yes, I was just going to do that. So I said, can you give me my money back? He was kind enough. He gave me half the money back. And we applied, we filled out the form, and I think that was it.
We were able to stay on. And then we stayed on. No.
Quite a story, though. And so Zenobia, so this year is 1966 she was born?
67.
67. Okay.
67 December.
Okay. And then what about the rest of your family? Could you tell me their names and when they were?
Zenobia is my oldest. Then Jamshed is middle boy. Zenobia is married to Darius, Damania. Darius Damania. They have 2 grown boys now. Very nice, very sweet. They're 6 foot tall now. And this was when we had their Besna done. Little boy's Besna. Oh yeah, here it is. Can you see it?
Yes.
Sweet. We had a full Besna done on a patla with traditional Pendani par, and he's so cute. But Zenobia has 2 sons, married to Darius Damania, and I have a middle boy is Jamshed Rivetna. He is married to an American girl, Tammy, and they have 3 daughters. Now they're in their 20s and all working and out of the house. And beautiful 3 girls. And then I have a 3rd son, Cyrus Rivetna. He is married to another boy. 5 grandkids, yeah.
They're all working for the community.
Yeah, and most proud of them because Jamshed was in Texas, and
Right.
he constructed their Mimar. Cyrus was the architect for their Mimar. And now Jamshed's moved to Chicago, and he is serving now as the president of the Zoroastrian Association here. Zenobia is the FEZANA administrator at the FEZANA office, which is located at the Zoroastrian Center here. And Cyrus is doing a lot of work building architecture-wise. He built the beautiful Darimer in Houston.
Yes. So when I was in India, growing up, I was not involved with the community, but I was kind of religious in the sense that I would go to the Gyari and recite the prayers, and the Gatha days I would be getting up early in the morning and things of that sort. Then going to London, couldn't keep up with all those routines. And of course, in Calcutta, I was involved with the community a little bit, not much. When we came to the US, for the first year or two, we were kind of involved with our own affairs. But soon we got to meet the rest of the community. First at Nowruz function at Boat's place. They were Khaki Boat. They were quite popular in those days. Khaki Boat and Jim Modi. So we were invited there and we met the community. And the community consisted of about 20 people at that time. But anyway, that grew from 20 to what we are now to about 800. So in those days, there was a small community. Khaki Board had started an association, and we were involved with that association. They made me the chair of this or that, and so on. As time went by, 2 or 3 years down the road, that organization fell through. There were some issues, and it just closed. Yeah, and so in fact, yeah, there's a funny incident that
in Vancouver, you may have heard of Jamshed Pauri. He was one of the pioneers in Vancouver, and they were trying to start. So when Khaki Boat started this organization in Chicago, he called it the Zoroastrian Association of America. Of America. And then Jamshed Pauri sent, I don't know, some letter or some newsletter.
I have the letter.
You have the letter. And he says, what were these Chicago Parsis thinking? What were they? Did they have some beer or wine and they thought they were forming this association for all of America? What were they thinking? And anyway, it fizzled out. It didn't work.
Yeah.
So then for many years, there was no association. There were hardly any associations anywhere.
Well, we were meeting at each other's homes.
I have this letter here. So then, in 1974, I have a letter here. And it's addressed to the Parsis of Greater Chicago. And it's signed by Dara Rivetna, Aban and Godrej Bilimoria, Dilshad and Kersi Atia, Roshan and Rohinton Rivetna, and Meru and Khaki Boat. And in essence, it said, a group of us meeting informally felt it is time for a resynthesis in Chicago. I hope we can graduate from the purely social interface that has characterized our contacts in the last few years. Our children are growing up in a totally American milieu, and they have no knowledge of the rich heritage of their great religion. So we are calling a meeting of all Parsis in the greater Chicago area on Sunday, August 11th, 1974, and it was at the home of Godrej and Avan Bilimoria. And from there, we decided to form an association. And it grew from there, and the Zoroastrian Association. Well, were a lot of hurdles. It wasn't simple. There were a lot of dissenting voices and this and that and all kinds of things. Yeah. But eventually, Zoroastrian Association of Chicago was formed.
Yeah, and then we decided to have a place of worship. We were using a church facility for all of our meetings, and Of course, everybody felt that we should have a place of worship of our own, uh, and I kind of spearheaded the project. Got people together. We looked at several existing buildings, and none of them were suitable. We decided to build it from ground up, and we did that. We did that and started work in 1981 or so, and finished in 83. We had our inauguration on September 3rd, 1983. Wasn't easy, but we got it done, and with very scarce funding. Arbab Rustam promised to give us $150,000, and out of which he gave us 90, and then they ran out of funds. So we somehow managed to arrange for the remaining funds, and there's a story how we did that. But with a lot of help from our local community, each one paid up to about 750 to $1,000. Every member of the community fulfilled their pledge. With the community's support, we were able to complete the building, and now it's a place that nobody can do without.
The whole building was built in $150,000. That's it. And it's the same building. We haven't really done much to it.
There was at that time, we were not all together. People had different opinions about things, and there was a lot of dissension. So people were not very cooperative in some sense. They would have their own opinions, own kind of self-interest, and rightly so, meaning there was this liberal orthodox kind of views, and so it was very hard, but finally it was not easy, but we got people together somehow, and that's a challenge that we faced. But when there are some techniques that you use and bring people together, so that's what we did. And
he believes in not voting, but forming consensus.
Yeah.
Somehow working people and giving them assignments on that project so that they get involved. Not just raising your hand and say yes or no, but form consensus.
Yeah, so that's the technique we've used quite successfully, even nationally. That was the same thing. There were attempts made to form a national organization, which did not work. At one of the congresses, we raised the issue again, and I took up the challenge to bring people together, and were reasonably successful in doing that, giving assignments to people who would oppose. And that way they got confidence in each other, and things start to work when people feel comfortable with each other. And that's how the organization was formed, the FEZANA organization. And this is quite unique in our world history, where in North America, we are possibly the only region that has come together, set our differences aside, and been able to work together with everybody.
FEZANA is really a model organization, where all the associations work together and,
In India, they're still struggling. They have differences and they haven't reconciled their differences. And it's time they did, because we are headed for the history books, if not. Same in UK, they still have differences and they haven't been able to come together. And Australia is even more. They made several attempts to come together, and 2 or 3 times, and they failed. So bringing people together is difficult, but it's time they did, because if not, there is. As we know, we are just declining very, very rapidly. We got to turn course, change our direction, and make community grow. Otherwise, the decline is very rapid. And in another 2 or 3 generations, there'll be very few left. So people need to understand that and work towards getting together and doing things together and to build the community and grow the community.
And that's
That's the most important aspect, issue in our community worldwide. And Zenobia, my daughter, is archiving them.
Okay, great.
But we have.
See it.
That is great. Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes.
But these are all I think there were 16 or 17 associations of the time, and each association had signed. And this is the parchment copy that we have.
That's amazing. Thank you for showing.
All the different associations.
And
And these are,
Constitution is also.
yeah, the Constitution is in the front, and all the different, these are people that we know now, actually. Firoz Mehta from Alberta, Firoz Jangalwala from
Boston.
Boston, Beram Paradia must be from Farangis Shahrukh from California, Dara is captain from Parvez Varjavan. So these are all people that
So
signed.
we had a constitution convention where several of us, about 12, 15 people met and went through the constitution line by line and came up with mutually acceptable wording for the document. So, and it took a lot of effort on our part. Everybody devoted their full attention. We worked for 10 hours a day for 8 straight days and came up with this document, which has served us very well for the last 40 years, 40 plus years.
So I'll show you one more picture. This is the people who had gathered for the Constitution Convention. And they're all people that we know, very much involved with the.
Some of them have passed.
Yeah, a couple of them have passed.
And thank you for sharing that.
No, but there are some things we need to do.
Yeah.
Still, there's a lot of things that he has a lot of ideas and visions.
Yeah. There's many things we still have to do if we are going to continue as a community and a growing community. Chief among those is our priests, the Mobids. The Mobids have to be the leaders of our community. And unfortunately, our Mobids take upon themselves to serve as ritualists. They primarily perform all the rituals, which is a blessing, which keeps us together. However, that is not sufficient if we are going to retain our younger generation. I've noticed, and you might have people notice it very well, that the younger generation have no real appreciation or regard for ceremonies. They don't understand it and they cannot relate to sitting for several hours or an hour or two and listening to something that they cannot relate to. So most of the time, we perform all the different gestions and this and that. We observe all the different observances, but seldom we find our youth attending those. So we need to rectify that. We need to find ways to attract our younger people, and we need to make these observances meaningful, you know, by, of course, making them understandable in some ways, and also our priests have to give sermons, and on the observance itself, they should be giving sermons, and so that make things meaningful for the younger people and attract them. Just pick up a topic and talk about it, and
participate,
yeah,
right?
and then in the ceremonies also make it so that they can participate in the observance and uh, get a sense of getting some satisfaction out of being there and performing the ceremonies. So those are the things that need to be done worldwide, not just here, but worldwide. We have found that in India, the attendance, they call it footfalls, are diminishing in our agyaris and our institutions. So our priests have to be ritualists, but on top of that, they have to be minister. They have to have ministerial duties. They have to know the scriptures. They know very little of the scriptures. They have to know the scriptures so that they can impart that knowledge to others. And outreach need to be able to pull people in, because if you ask somebody to come and participate in something, it's different from just letting the person decide. And they usually decide that they don't want to attend this, that, but they have to be able to pull people in. And for their own benefit, because when they come there, they will benefit from the participation in the ceremony and in the with the others, the majlis, the participants. So those are the things that need to be done. That is the
Rohinton
most important.
has edited this book. It's called Jashan with Understanding. And this is a book with the prayers and translation of the prayers. Very beautiful translation done by Dastuji Minoad Cherhomji. And he is trying to give these copies to all the associations so that when people are sitting in the Jashan, they don't fall asleep or gossip, but they can follow the prayers in the.
Yeah, that's the most important aspect. The other aspect is the giving. We are not very readily giving community. People do give, but for a particular cause, if somebody is ill or this or that, there's an outpouring of support. But if they ask that we need funds for developing the mobids or building this or that, it's difficult to get funds. So that ethic of giving, collective giving, is absent. We need to cultivate that. If we don't give, we can't. Anything you do need funds. So funds are important, and people are quite well endowed. They can easily support $500 or $1,000 a year for a community. They can do that. I know that they're well endowed, but they don't, because that ethic is not there. We need to develop that somehow. Also, bequests. We are getting on in age, people are older, and as they pass, they need to bequeath some of their wealth to the organizations. That is absent. Everybody should be able to give a little something in passing. That's bequests. And most organizations, big, large churches and other organizations depend on bequests. So that needs to be developed. So those are the two things. And of course, the declining demographics. If we don't pull ourselves and reverse the trend, particularly the young, then it's going to be very difficult. Intermarriage is fine. We accept it, we accept their children, but we find that a lot of these intermarried children, they don't continue with the organization. As they grow up, they marry again outside and then they are lost to the community. So we need to find ways to arrest that decline also. Iran in 1850s, when Manikji Hataria arrived in Iran, there were only 7,000 Zoroastrians left. And from that, they grew to about 40,000, 30 or 40,000 in the 1940s, 1950s. And then, of course, now they're down again because of the migration to US and UK after the revolution. So if Iran can do it and they've done it, we can do it too. I think it's not hopeless, but we need to begin now. It's kind of late already. That sense has to pervade into our younger generation. I have a letter for the youth that like to circulate to make them understand the gravity of the situation. Okay, so would like to be we've always worked together. Everything we've done together. So we have a team, husband and wife, that has worked together. So we want to be remembered as tireless workers for the community. That's one thing we do. Even today we spend at least 10 hours a day working for the community. So that's something we'd like to be remembered.
But it is very gratifying that, with his initiative, we can say that we have kind of germinated, started our local association, FEZANA. He was deeply involved. And then also over the last many years, he's been fighting and fighting. And now finally, the Global Council of Zoroastrians has been registered formally, just bringing all the federations and of the regions together. That is something very gratifying to him. And also the business, WZC, that's another very gratifying. And also, he's very involved with interfaith. When we came first, they would say, Zoro, what Zoro? Now, at least we are placed with all the other major religions at, for example, the Parliament of Religions. He was instrumental in formulating that.
Parliament of World Religions. We were able to, with a couple other people, Swami Sarveshananda and I, kind of put together the Parliament of World Religions. So that was very gratifying. And right now, I work with the Council of Religious Leaders in Chicago and trying to inculcate some of the practices that I found useful, but it's been hard.
So it's very gratifying that now, we kind of are part of, placed on the same platform with other religions of the world, even though we are so tiny and small.
Yeah. And the Institute of Zoroastrian Studies is something
North American Morbits Council have
initiated that, and that's doing quite well too. And we just had a meeting of the Society of Scholars of Zoroastrianism. Encourage if you can.
I go along with everything that he has done, and I really am very, very committed to perpetuating things that he starts.
Right.
And I'm very committed to perpetuating our traditions. I used to be a scientist, but now I've forgotten everything in physics and it doesn't make too much sense to me. But I'm very committed to perpetuating our traditions. I have this Parsi Mithai shop website. I don't know if you know. And I like to write books and write these.
Matchmaking.
And I do matchmaking.
Great. That's good to
And
know.
I'm really very, very.
She spends at least 5-6 hours a week.
So I'm very committed to perpetuating our religion and living in America as an American, yet finding the balance between keeping our traditions and yet also becoming true Americans and loving the country.
We had to pay a debt. The debt to pay is to my grandparents and my parents, who were we were not well endowed, but my mother found ways to educate us and kind of make us grow. She gave us full reign and made us what we are today. So
I am just truly blessed to have all my dear family around me, my children, grandchildren, and they all live in the Chicago area. Even my nieces, nephews are close by. And the community is beautiful community. We have some good friends and we feel very blessed.
We have an investment club which we have started where we're making some little money. And I encourage, in fact, I'm giving a class to the younger people right now, encouraging them to be investors, 14 years old. You have to start early, and if you start early, the time is on your side. We are older, so we don't have that luxury, but you have the time. So invest and the money will grow. Right investment, not traders, not gamblers, but do the right investment. So we are teaching the young right now.
That's
And
great.
hopefully get them started to invest, start to invest.
Thanks so much for sharing your story with me. And I know that conversation is going to keep continuing, but for now, I'm going to stop the recording.